Let's go straight to Karina Huber. She's watching all of this up on Wall Street. What happened, Karina?
Well, Wolf, nothing happened stateside to drive the markets higher because we had that holiday, so no corporate earnings, no econ data. The focus really was on Europe.
People have decided if we're going to get a break, this is the weekend, this is the week to do it. Any truth in that, or am I just sort of off beam?
You know, we've seen some nice trading sessions at the beginning of the week, but a bit of a pullback right now, as I said, ahead of that employment report. Now, the question is, will investors get back into the game after we saw those sharp sell-offs a month earlier? Seems like a good time to buy, especially if you want to hold. But at the same time, there are a lot of unknowns right now about how the economy is going to do in the U.S., also in Europe. So I wouldn't bet my house on this being a strong month because keep in mind, historically, September is the worst performing month of the whole year. So don't bet all your money on that one, Richard.
Come on, Karina. It's barely September the 1st and you're pouring water.
We're about an hour and a half away from getting the results from California. The New Jersey results have already come in. At this point, we cannot officially say that Hillary has won the nomination because that has to take place at the convention in July. But at this point, she is the presumptive nominee because she has clinched more than the minimum amount of delegates to win the nomination. Everybody is gearing up for the big game tonight. In just a few hours, the defending Super Bowl champion, the New England Patriots, will take on the Kansas City Chiefs. So the football season is on. The most anticipated speech at this year's symposium was that of Mario Draghi, the president of the European Central Bank. Market watchers were hoping for some kind of clue from him as to when the ECB will be pulling back on its 60 billion euro a month bond buying program, but there was no mention of that in his speech.
At the moment, we don't see any Chinese wines at any major New York restaurants. Do you think that is going to change in the future? Because at one time we didn't see many South African wines, Chilean wines. Of course, that's all changed. Will that happen for China as well?
I think they're certainly making a lot of improvements.
But at the same time, we're seeing that traditional sports broadcasters like ESPN are getting in on this. They're broadcasting some of these tournaments. So it's not only that people are participating in the games, they're actually wanting to watch other people play the games, which is a bit of a mystery to me. I mean, what is the real joy in that?
Well, it's become something where if I play, it's also fun to watch. It's fun to watch because I get to see the best athletes in the sport.
I guess one of the concerns is over the geo-mapping element that we see with Pokemon Go. Some concerns that perhaps you'll find gamers that are going into military areas and it could reveal to the rest of the world where some of those military sites are. I mean, in light of this new regulation, do you think Pokemon Go has any chance of breaking into the Chinese market, which I'm sure Nintendo would like to happen because the market is so huge there?
Well, I think it's not just Nintendo.
Because we've just seen this news report that Larry Page of Google and James Cameron are investing in a company that plans on mining asteroids for resources. Do you think that is actually feasible, and is it cost effective?
I think potentially it could be cost effective.
It's 2016 now. We see that in developing countries, 91% of the children are in primary school.
That's right.
Yet there are still 57 million children worldwide who are not in school. So given this, do you look at the second goal of the MDGs as a success or a failure?
A success in that about 40 million children who would not otherwise have been in school went to school. So these are huge numbers.
It didn't seem you were poised for success because if you look at your early years, you got failing grades in high school and it seemed like you couldn't hold down a job. By 22, you had about 20 different jobs. What was it about real estate that really changed things for you?
It wasn't about real estate whatsoever. What hooked me in was it was my own business.
There's a conversation being had as to whether it's appropriate for professional athletes to exercise their First Amendment rights, i.e. freedom of speech, on the field. What's the NHL's take on that?
We respect our players, and we understand that on political and social issues, it's ultimately a matter of individual choice.
Trump seems to favor the so-called private-public partnerships as a way to finance these, and that would mean tax breaks for developers and investors. What do you think of that approach?
The Port Authority Board, Governor Cuomo and Christie, are committed to the use of private capital where it makes sense.
It's a simple case of supply just not being able to keep up with demand. A demand that was described this week by a top U.S. Air Force general as, quote, insatiable.
The Holloman Air Force Base in the Chihuahua Desert in New Mexico is a sort of boot camp for remotely piloted aircraft, or RPA pilots. This dead-end road near the rural town of Hemingford, Quebec, has become a hotspot for asylum seekers crossing from the U.S. into Canada. Why here? Ease of entry.
All they have to do is walk along this path, and they're potentially on their way to starting a new life. On the high end, this Lincoln Navigator is getting a lot of buzz, favored by hip-hop stars and athletes who want a little more space without compromising on luxury. This marks the first time in a decade that the model has undergone a major redesign. The U.S. imports more goods from China than any other country in the world. Last year, that total amount was $506 billion worth of goods. Now that got me thinking, how dependent am I on Chinese imports? Well, to answer that question, let's head into my home to find out. Made it up the stairs and welcome to my home. This is where I spend a lot of my time, on this couch. Can you guess where it's made? You guessed it, China. My television is a Samsung, so it's made in Korea, not China. But electrical machinery and equipment is the U.S.'s top import from China. The category includes cell phones, tablets, remotes, and laptops. Last year, the U.S. imported $147 billion worth of those kinds of goods.